Hi, I'm Ben Pullinger, CEO of ATEX Resources. We are currently exploring and developing a large copper-gold porphyry system in the Atacama region of Chile, and I'm very excited to report that we're about a month away from sending drill rigs up the mountain to start drilling on our Phase 5 program, which will be probably our biggest program to date, and we expect to have solid news flow leading into the middle of next year and publishing a resource update on the back of that. The project currently stands at 1.5 billion tons of inferred resources at 0.7% copper, with a high-grade kicker in there as well. And in our last drill hole of our Phase 4 program, we discovered a new zone that overlies that porphyry of about 100 meters at 2%, which will be obviously the priority of this Phase 5 program.
And that's a wrap, folks. Thanks for coming. See you next year.
There we go.
That was pretty good. That was pretty
I've been practicing. I've had 46 meters to practice for this today.
Well done, well done.
This
well,
week,
we better kind of at least give some time and value to the listeners of this by asking you some more questions, if you don't mind. So it's been a good week. It's been like, I think the haves and the have-nots. That's what it feels like.
It does feel like that, yeah. And I think I'd say we're very fortunate to be in the position where we have the asset that we do, in the jurisdiction that we do. And I think this is a market where you cannot underestimate the value of shareholders, having PLSR, Trinity, BD, names like that behind the story who are constantly working with us and our partners is a huge, I think, value add in this current market.
And money where their mouth is.
Exactly.
Really, really important. It says something about how they interpret what you take. But let's, if you don't mind, maybe focus on the kind of how you commercialize something like this. Okay, so yeah, it's development, and yet we get the Phase 5 drilling, exploration need into the resource, and I guess also 100% ownership this in September next year.
Yeah, August next year we go to 100%. Yeah, with one more payment, $8 million.
Yeah, done.
Done deal. Yeah.
Done deal. Okay. Well, let's remind people what you've got so far in terms of how many meters in the ground. Or dollar terms, however you want to kind of.
Yeah, so really, like, if you look at it this way, we've put about 32,000 meters into the porphyry. Yeah. Just the porphyry. There has been historical drilling up top as well, which actually gives us a nice view of the system. The system is perfectly telescoped, so wherever we're seeing mineralization near surface, when we drill under that, we're hitting porphyry and mineralization related to that. So we've actually got 2 kilometers of that at surface. We've only tested 1.2 of that with that 32,000 meters. We're about to drill another 20-ish thousand meters to put that into that. So to put that in context, this next program will basically double the data that we have on the model, increase the confidence, increase the quantity of grade and the continuity of that grade into something that I think is going to be a very exciting resource update next year. Now we talk about commercialization of that. I mean, really, if you look at the NGEX and Filo, I think are spectacular examples of how you commercialize exploration results right now. It's money in the ground. It's consistently delivering value through big step outs, through defining what you've got and also demystifying it. We've just taken a ton and a half of metallurgical test work samples that are on their way up to Canada to get smashed and crashed and floated, and we expect that to validate the work that we put out last year, where we showed 95% recoveries for copper, 94% recoveries for gold. If we can do that again, this time on a much bigger system, which is growing, still open in every direction, we haven't hit the limits on this, and then start delivering, but before the end of this year, start delivering on drill hole after drill hole after drill hole, following up on the geological model that we put together in Phase 4 and some of the high-grade results that we saw, 16A, 112 meters at 1.5% copper equivalent, open to the southeast, hole 26, the last hole of our project, 68 meters at 2.02%. You put our metallurgical recoveries into that, that's 100 meters at 2%. And that sits 100 meters above the porphyry and closer to surface. What we see in terms of, again, commercializing, drilling that off, showing that there's critical mass there, it's really like a supercharger on top of the project, because if there's enough there, you can develop that very cost effectively and use cash flow from that to kind of look at the big picture below, which is the porphyry. So really, looking at some really game-changing stuff over here and delivering value with the drill bit. And you see the market has been rewarding companies that can do this, especially when you've got the right shareholder mix and the right attention.
Okay, so I'm kind of keen to understand the thinking with regards to the monetization, the commercialization, and the monetization of this thing, right? So in a market like this, where money's scarce, I say the haves and the have-nots. The haves, which I've put you in that category, can access capital, but at the same time, there's a pressure on that money to return on their money. So are you a case of, it's big enough for now, let's get going, we know there's more to come through exploration, or is it a case of we're going to continue to show the scale and opportunity here?
I would say it's very much the latter. I think we still don't know what we have. Right. I think we have a very good view of the fact that, compared to where we were at the end of Phase 3, when we put out the resource, at the end of Phase 4, the system is bigger. One. there's more continuity of the high grade and there's more higher grades mineralization around, especially in two places. One, the bit that I mentioned in the epithermal overprinting bit above, but also the high grade trend, which is completely open to the southeast. So I think scale, yes, it would tick that box. I mean, I would say we're probably in the realms of north of 2 billion tons at this point in terms of inventory. A billion of that just sitting in the porphyry, which is now a continuous unit of 1.2 kilometers by 500 to 600 meters. I think we still don't know what the edges of that are. And then we don't know the edges of the wall rock beyond that. So scale has a quality of its own, and grade has a quality of it too. So focusing on the balance between the two of those, I think gets us through to this next resource update. And I think at that point where we know how much what we can recover, because we've done this big network program. We know what the size and shape of it are. We know what the grade profile looks like. Then we have a better idea whether or not we know enough about the system then to start looking at a study, or as in the case of Philo and NGEX, we keep drilling because we can see so much upside beyond us still. At the end of the day, but I think the way that we make money for shareholders here is by doing what we do best. We are very efficient explorers. We've gone from geological curiosity to knocking on the door of top 10 undeveloped copper projects on the planet in 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah, and you're very efficient explorers, but you're also adding to the team. And I'm trying to get a sense of what it is you're trying to build out to, because it's one of those things where I get you. If you want to make it big, it helps you with sort of maybe life of mine and mine planning. And if you're working towards mine planning, if you guys are, or you're going to leave that for someone else to deal with, what are you doing with the people side of things?
The people side of things, it's a really good question. Like again, I talking to our strengths. What we're good at is exploring, and what we're good at is trying to de-risk the project to a point where somebody else wants to work with us and partner on it, and transfer that skill set to a development and operating partner. I think, as you've seen a lot in the last decade, people that don't have the skill set, or the people in their team or in their DNA, or the discipline in their DNA to develop a mine, and the capital to back it up, fall over. And we want to avoid that. We've hired a gentleman now as our country manager. He comes from the oil and gas industry, dealing with very complex social situations and stuff. Not that we have those, but we now have that in our DNA, because on the exploration side, we don't really see people that have dealt with this, have this experience very often. This guy is there to make sure that we maintain social license, and it gets the same attention that exploration does. To your other point, in terms of pushing it forward, size of scale, we're just still finding our highest grade material at the end of phase 4. So until you know where that is, it's really difficult to start to look at the economics and stuff. I mean, there is a time where we need to start de-risking that, but first we need to know what it is. It's like the social network. We're still at the Facebook. We haven't dropped it there. We don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, but it's also true that if it's going to be someone else's balance sheet, you kind of got to build it for them in a way, right? So what do they want?
Well, I think this is where we can get into the debate between, I think the public market people like seeing like the kind of the documentation of what's happening, because it gets out there. But I think when you're looking at the universe of potential partners, they've got that in their teams. They can take our drill data and do more with it than we can do. I mean, we are starting to work on those things like network. We are focusing on geotechnical work at the moment. We are starting to look at some initial kind of high-level mining concepts and stuff, because we need to know those things, because that impacts how we continue to explore. But I think until we get through phase 5, if we continue to see the grade that we're seeing, and we're seeing that grade coming up, the grade is ultimately what's going to drive payback, which is ultimately going to drive the decision to build this. If we're still getting better grade and we haven't fully defined that, then we've got to come back and do that again. But it also means it's a bit of a champagne problem. It means the project keeps on giving. Yeah. And it truly is world class. Yeah.
Right. But and we're looking at some of the investors that are here. I don't think that any of these super big boys are here. There's some nice funds, etc. I'm sure you've had some great meetings, etc. On a investment basis if you do a raise. But strategic investors, they start to sniff around when they start seeing grades like yours, where you seem to have got so far, what more is to come. Are you seeking that out? Given you the strength of your current investor base, maybe you don't need, not for the money, but for the intelligence. Have you had any of those conversations outside of?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we've been pretty open about the fact that we'd love the right partner to come along with the project. Look, we ultimately see this as a district scale consolidation, right? And that means we need bigger heads on the mining side, bigger ideas, people that can have those conversations, and also we like to have partners that have deep pockets that can co-invest with our existing amazing shareholders. But there is a point where our skill set starts to matter less, and the skill set of the engineering, of the infrastructure guys starts to become more relevant. So we're open to that conversation at any point. But also, for the investors that are here at Beaver Creek, we have a long pathway of value to create as you see through that whole exploration curve. I think Philo is obviously, will invoke the name of the greats here. $4.5 billion takeout. We're sitting at a $280 million market cap today. You saw NGEX go from like $200 million to $1.8 billion on the back of drill results. The market does pay for good results. There is capital available, as you said, for the haves, for the people that can deliver, and the people that can show that credible exploration and that credible narrative to de-risking that project. And that's really what we're focusing on right now. Yeah.
Right. I could see. Right. What's the 50% ownership right now?
49%.
49%. Yeah. Okay. And moving to 100 in September on payment of $8 million.
Correct,
you don't want to rush into that. You want to use that cash wisely and I guess raise money more cheaply later, right?
Yeah. So the lucky thing is we actually have that on our balance sheet. We have $9 million Canadian of in the money $1 warrants that expire in September, end of August next year.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can get those exercised and those basically pay for most of that.
Right.
So that's actually going to be a very nice use of our warrant book to finance us in clever ways.
But you could have got a nice arbitrage there with the case of you've got the money there to pay that now. Yeah. If you go from 49 to 100% ownership, you'd expect to see a reaction in the marketplace more than $8 million worth.
Exactly. Right? But to your point, that $8 million we need to draw right now. So yeah. So then that's where I think, and the nice thing is it's set, right? We know what that is, so we know we can budget for it. But yeah, right now, 12, 14, 15 more drill holes of what we put out in phase 4, I think moves the needle spectacularly for us. Like just a reminder, like all the holes like typically have about 1,000 meters of continuous mineralization at above 0.4. Within that, we usually have like 300, 400, 500 meters of somewhere around percent as well, and especially when we're drilling the high grade trend. And this next program, 90% of what we've planned so far, we might not end up drilling everything, and we might plans change as every good battle plan. As soon as you engage with the enemy, it changes. But we're currently looking at whether or not we can drill 90% of those holes as daughter holes, right? So I'm not drilling that upper like 700 to 1,000 meters. So our 20,000 meter program actually becomes closer to 30,000 meters. So very efficient, very effective, and allows us to do a lot of damage in a shorter amount of time. So I think I could not stress more how excited I am about what we can do on phase 5 here and how much value I think we can create. Exactly to your point. Growing the resource, bringing up the grade, going to 100%. I think those are all meaningful contributors to value beyond where we are today.
Yeah, and I'm sure we could draw this into a big long conversation. And you tell me all about your unique mining proposition, usability, and the metallurgy recovery and all that kind of good stuff. But right now, I think there's a kind of real spotlight on the grades that are coming back, the drilling that you're doing, and the fact that you're not under any financial pressure. And I'd like the spotlight to remain on that because you build something quite spectacular in a short space of time. I'm excited to see what comes through with the drilling, but more importantly, moving to that kind of September point where you've got some other bigger decisions to make at that point, I suspect, in terms of where this thing can go.
I think I'd very much look forward to fast forward. I wouldn't want to fast forward because I don't want to live through all these drill holes. Yeah. But I'd look forward to sitting back here in September next year with you, and having that conversation and see how we did. This year to date, see how the market performed, see if we got reward for what we did, and then how that evolves into that next step of decision making. I think it's going to be a fun conversation.
Proper developer at that point.
Let's see. Well,
I'll let you get back to. You've had a tough week, a long week.
Honestly, it's been a great week. This has been a very good conference for us. Share price is up. We've got a lot of interested parties. So I think this is exactly what we came here for. And shout out to Precious Metals for putting on another good show.
Absolutely. Yeah.